It certainly has been a wacky race.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
Joe Fleming is with us tonight, my go-to guy, the building's go-to guy when it comes to the Democratic Party's go-to guy, most elected officials' go-to guy when it comes to trying to evaluate what's really going on in a race or what you can be concerned about, what the pockets of opportunity are with the people. He's the lead pollster, of course, and political analyst here in the building, and we'll talk to Joe in a minute about this. You know, when I told you about this, well, when this first thing started, I told you that this would be a race that would be determined in large part by things we did not know, simply because the candidates are very close to each other on the issues. You know, when you have, at the first blush, it was some 30 people that took out papers to run for this congressional District 1 seat. Did I mention that at the top of the show? It's the only race in town, right? So that's the one we're talking about. You know, David Cicilline leaving a few months after he was elected to go be the CEO at the Rhode Island Foundation in a move that I know he thinks is his righteous First Amendment in pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness opportunity. And the CEO of Rhode Island Foundation is a big position, and the Rhode Island Foundation is very happy that he's there. Of course, they're the largest philanthropic organization in the state, and I wish them both the best of luck. But the truth of the matter is, it's a selfish move. He didn't do it the way Jim Langevin did it, which was to advance the notice in a real election cycle that he was not going to run in a real election cycle. But it's water under the bridge, and there's no sense crying over spilt milk. But to suggest, and by the way, if you've never heard the conversation that David and I had about this, we had it out. Go to 997WPRI.com and listen to the 45 minutes where he and I more or less dropped the gloves on this whole thing. And I respect him for that. I mean, he finally came in after I had been peppering him pretty hard about his decision. He stood up for himself, and for that I think he deserves credit. And I have no doubt that his skills and talent will benefit the Rhode Island Foundation, but timing is everything, and your commitment to the district, I think, ought to be the most important thing in your professional life, especially since you've just been elected. Now, of course, you know, Joe and I talked about this before, that, you know, Cicilline is relegated to the party itself is relegated to a lesser status because it's now the minority party in the House. But here's what we have now: 24 years of lost equity between Jim Langevin's, I think, legitimate retirement and David Cicilline's resignation, 12 years apiece. And now Seth Magaziner, who represents District 2, and whoever wins this particular race are rookies. So now Rhode Island is down 24 years of equity with a minority party. So in terms of our status, and if that's got any impact on bacon brought home or any other influence that's necessary for little Rhode, we got problems. And thankfully, Sheldon Whitehouse and Jack Reed are of superior status on the Democratic side. I don't know if that evens it out because they were there anyway. Anyway, I digress. It's a race that I think is unfortunate. And with all of these people jumping into it, especially those who have elected seats and have no risk in running because if they don't win this race, they keep their seats, we have a mess. And so we got a mess. We got Sabina Matos with her petition nomination papers, an archaic process, but one you have to pay attention to and do the right way. Messing that up, still under investigation by the Attorney General's office, not necessarily on her candidacy, but on whoever may have committed fraud, which has really nothing to do with the election result. The Board of Elections here today, gone tomorrow, with haphazard and undisciplined decisions about what to do about that, finally authorizing her to run. Then we get a situation where Don Carlson, who put a $600,000 check into his own account and has reportedly raised, you know, another couple $100,000 more, thinking he's making some move out of Jamestown, he gets caught up in a Target 12 investigation, which you can say what you want about it. I thought Carlson handled the investigation story poorly, terrible crisis management, and ended up choking on it and quitting the race, which caused more turbulence. So the stuff of the machinations of political operations is really what has been the focus in this race. Aaron Regenberg, who's now perceived as a leader, his father-in-law dumps $125,000 into a political action committee, and he's the dude that doesn't want political action committees. You know, so I mean, but what you don't see is a debate on issues, for the most part. I mean, I'm talking about slight nuances and derivations. And Joe predicted this, and I told you it was going to be like this, and so there you have it. So the debate with 8 people on the stage at Rhode Island College this past week, as good as I think Tim and Ted could have done with an 8-person situation. And I'm going to play a couple excerpts of it, but in the meantime, let me give you a wrap-up on it, then bring Joe in for his initial thoughts.
8 Democrats using their only live primetime debate appearance to try and stand out from the pack.
Support or oppose term limits for members.
The group had similar stances on gun control and women's reproductive health, and all support legalizing recreational marijuana and term limits for members of Congress. On the topic of Medicare for All, the candidates were divided on whether they would vote to abolish private health insurance, but it was the question on how they would have voted on the debt ceiling deal that led the candidates to sink their teeth into the perceived frontrunner, Aaron Regenberg.
Everyone but Mr. Regenberg is a yes on that one. And I'm curious, would you still have voted no if you were the deciding vote? In other words, if it would have killed the bill?
Absolutely. If the question we received was not how would you vote if you were the deciding factor. In that case, obviously you have to vote yes.
He tweeted that we had voted no on the debt ceiling. That's risky. And we have to think about the consequences that we're having as a country for having this fight over the debt ceiling over and over.
We need to think about the people that we represent. And let's think about a SNAP program, Social Security benefits for seniors. That is what it was in the line.
Regenberg also took criticism from his fellow Democrats about being supported by a super PAC funded by his own father-in-law.
That is a red flag. That is a clear red flag, especially because of the dishonesty that underlines it.
He's saying, and he said he fought for people. He never fought for anything in his life.
Some pretty wild and dishonest accusations. I've worked as senior policy advisor for the city of Providence. I've worked in our federal judicial courts, and I've worked as a legislator, bringing people together, building coalitions to pass major progressive policy reform that's impacted hundreds of thousands of Rhode Islanders.
All right, so I thought that was an excellent summary, by the way, of the debate. The meatiest issues, I think, were covered there. How are you, my friend?
Good, my friend.
Thanks for coming in. I gave my wide take. What's your wide take of the race right now?
Well, my wide take is simply you have 11 active candidates, 12 names to be on the ballot, and a lot of it's going to depend on turnout come Tuesday. Right now, the perceived frontrunner is Aaron Regenberg because there's no public polling on this race. And based on the debate, you can see all the candidates going after him. So they perceive him as a frontrunner also.
Well, the reason, Joe, that he's perceived is, Maddie, can you bring up the AMO poll headline, if you would?
Right.
I'd appreciate that. So Gabe Amo puts out a poll. Interesting play, right? Rather than keeping it internal, they put out a poll that showed Regenberg with that lead, but Amo a middle second.
Right.
Kind of, if it's a horse race, Regenberg has got a 6-length lead on Amo, who has then again another 5-length lead on the rest of the pack, type of thing. With Matos, who early on in this race we talked about it, it was hers to lose, and she's done everything she can to do it.
Yep.
But the perception is generated by the perceived second place runner.
Right, but even before that, people were perceiving Aaron Regenberg as the front runner due to the fact he's really been working hard to get the progressive vote lined up with him. We've seen that, like with Bernie Sanders coming in, now with his AOC endorsement. He's really made an effort to get that progressive block of voters because in a 12-way race, you don't need 50% of the vote to win.
Well, wait a second, let's go all the way back. I mean, the Matos put out her poll that had her at 22 and Regenberg at 9. And we all glommed on to the perception that she is, because she's the only statewide elected person, that she had enough foundation to squeeze one of these out.
And the thing, like I always say to you, Dan, a poll is just a snapshot of when it's taken. And that's what we're seeing in this race. It fluctuates greatly because I think a lot of the voters have not been zeroed in on this race until recently. A lot of these candidates are not up on TV. A few of them are doing direct mail, some of them are not. So the voters are really starting to just focus in now. That poll shows Aaron with like 27, 28% of the vote. If he has that, he's probably going to win this race if he holds on to all that.
I suggested in a lot of my data, whenever I suggest anything out of data, it's because I listen to smart people, and Joe is one of them. We talked about 40,000 being the cap.
Right.
It may be less than that.
Correct.
Right? You're more at 30, 35,000 voters in this primary,
Yeah,
right?
I've been saying between 30 and 40,000. And again, who knows? I mean, with 12 candidates, they may be able to generate more voters to come out.
I would suggest that 25% is the winning number at best.
Yep, I have no problem with that.
So if Riegenberg is at 27, 28 in this poll, he's the locked winner. However, if you go inside that poll, the conversation that we need to have and we had on the radio is that poll is kind of an interpretation. I mean, that particular data is an interpretation of a combination of answers that were given on candidate of choice and then the undecideds being forced to call for a second candidate.
Yeah.
The real number was in the 23, 24%, and Amo around 16, and Kano and Matos battling for third place around 8. Which I think keeps this thing in what we think is the top. So I think Riegenberg is about capped. Then Bernie comes in for him, right, this past weekend. And then we have a new headline. Can we throw this in on the race near finish headline, Matt, if you would? I'd appreciate that. AOC puts her nose in this race. Right. The New York woman, who is the congressperson and one of the lead progressives. And then Patrick Kennedy jumps in with an AMO TV ad. So late endorsements. But I think the AOC and Sanders thing enforces the progressive vote. I don't think it increases it.
No, I think what Aaron Riegenberg is doing is solidifying that progressive vote. I said that all along. He wants to lock that up. Had Bernie in, AOC. Some people might say, I don't like AOC, and that could possibly hurt him with other voters. But as long as he locks that progressive vote up, he's going to be in a strong position for Tuesday's election.
All right, when we come back, I want to take a look at one specific question that I think most of the candidates booted in that debate. Stay with us. And then there's Sandra Kano, who we really need to speak about here. Dan McGowan of the Boston Globe wrote this piece, Joe, suggesting that she's the surger. She has a pretty good foundation and a get-out-the-vote effort, and her endorsements, while local, could support that, correct?
Exactly. Their whole campaign strategy was they knew they were not going to be able to raise as much money as some of the other candidates. Their strategy was grassroots and endorsements. I mean, she has 2 teaching unions endorsing her, a number of mayors from the Blackstone Valley and North Providence endorsing her, a lot of state senators. She has a couple of senators from Aquidneck Island out there working hard for her. So theirs is a big grassroots.
Her debate performance, and if you haven't seen it, go to WPRI.com and take a look at it. It's worth your while. And of course, Channel 10 ran their debates in the middle of the afternoon on Thursday and Friday for reasons I have no idea. But she's a pleasant person.
She is. Yes.
She's a pleasant person. I thought her answers were somewhat vapid. They're all kind of scripted, and I mean, she's not bringing much to the table. None of them are really. But she presents well.
Yes.
And with her ground game, don't count her out of this race.
I would not count her out of this race. I would think she's going to be up towards the top, if not the top. But again, as I said, a lot's going to depend on turnout and where they're coming from. She's very popular in Pawtucket. She was on the school committee, was on the city council, and now is a state senator. The question is, will Pawtucket come out and vote? Because she has a strong base there, but she has to get them out to vote.
And a guy like Steve Casey is counting on that too, thinking that Woonsocket, Cumberland, that he could generate because he's an elected state rep, that he could generate some of that. I'm not so sure.
It's going to be tougher for Steve Casey. I think the groups that I think he thought were going to support him, I think he's changed his position on some of the issues. So he's not getting the support I think he thought he was going to get.
But how about a little bit of prep, Sandra, and everybody else? We're going to talk through this for a second until we get bored. Here's the question on term limits. Maddie, can you roll this? Because I'm going to stop it real quick.
Do you support or oppose term limits for members of the U.S. House of Representatives? If so, how long?
So I support, but I don't know how long would it be.
Okay.
So, and forgive us for pausing it there. If it comes back to Joe and me on camera, the whole thing resets, and so forgive us for the technical thing here. is it so hard to know a question you know is coming, have a definitive answer for crying out loud?
You should have some type of answer at this point in the campaign on how long you think the term limit should be. No question.
All right, then Matos, roll it.
Ms. Matos?
I support. I've been thinking about probably 3 terms, but it has to be done in a way that ensures that one state doesn't lose all of their seniority all at once. Based on my experience with the Providence City Council term limit, you need to think about how it's going to be implemented.
So
All right, yeah, pause it there. Okay. Yeah, who are they kidding? They get in there for 3 terms, 6 years.
Yep.
They're only just getting their feet on the ground.
Yeah, 6 years is a short time. It takes a while to know everything in the Congress. And also, I mean, where she's talking about staggered, that makes sense because you look at the U.S. Senate. Those are staggered 1/3 every 2 years.
All right, so the implementation would have to be staggered. Keep rolling. Here's John Gonzalez, a city councilor from Providence.
6 years is what you're thinking?
6 years. Yeah.
Mr.
I
Gonzalez?
support term limits, 3 terms in the House, 2 terms in the Senate.
Again, you know, come on. Keep rolling. It's just what a waste. Keep rolling.
I would support legislation for term limits. I think I would consider something in the 8 to 12 year range. Take some time to go up there and make some friends and bring people together and actually get something done.
All right, stop the tape there, if you will. Okay, 8 to 12 years. That's 2 term. Is it, Joe? Am I being picky? Can you just have an answer? This comes up every time. 8 to 12. Well,
that's 4 to 6 terms.
It's 4. Okay, you're being. I'm not drawing Joe into any kind of hammering here. That's my job. Gabe Amo.
6 terms, Mr. Amo?
Yes, I'm supportive. Something like 3 to 5 terms in the House.
Again, stop the tape. Again, could you give the voters a decisive answer as opposed to, you know, what the heck? Keep rolling.
Gazada?
I do support it, but I would say senators will be 12 year. I think state representative will be the Senate. I would say 6th term.
Just keep going. Just
Mr. Burbank.
I do support it, and you know, having 12 years in the House, 12 years in the Senate, because I believe each generation has an obligation to pass the baton off to the next, so that they have an opportunity to lead.
Stop the tape. Thank
more
God.
Decisive. Yes, definitely
And
decisive.
by the way, this guy is built of the right stuff. Walter Burbrick joins the military after 9/11, moves himself up inside the Navy so much that he teaches at the Naval War College on intimate issues of intelligence. He's got the real. Now, I don't think he really understands how to run a race yet, but we would not be embarrassed having him as the congressman.
The answer is precise. He knew what he wanted to say on this question. No question at all.
But in general, your feeling about him?
Yeah, I received a couple mailers from him in the mail because I'm in the 1st Congressional District. He sounds like he could be an up-and-coming candidate over the years. I think people have to still get to know him better.
Yeah.
I don't think he's that well known yet.
I want to vote for him, but I know he most likely is not going to win. And then Aaron Regenberg.
I support it, but if I'm going to prioritize who needs term limits the most, I'm going to say it's the Supreme Court.
All right, so there you go. It's always a little bit of a twist with Regenberg. It's kind of he is a twister. I only pull that out, Joe, because it's like the easiest question you get in a debate, and most of them really don't have their heads wrapped around it.
Dan, sometimes the easiest questions are the ones that could trick you up. They're ready for the harder questions a lot of time. They have answers they want to use. You give them something easy, they're not ready for it sometimes.
Okay, final thoughts on this race when we come back. Stay with us. All right, so maybe over Labor Day, and again Labor Day weekend, where we got a Tuesday coming here where people have to wake up in the morning and say, "Oh yeah, I got to vote for that Congress thing." The rapidity of the voter will be lacking in this race, don't you think?
Yeah, I think the interest is very low on this race. I think people who haven't followed it will be able to vote, but the average person who hasn't followed this race, there's not a lot of motivation for them to go out and vote here.
Which, Joe, is why I'm so brokenhearted over it, because Congress is a very important job.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
There's no question about that. And again, this is just the primary. We have a general election in November. There's also a Republican primary on Tuesday.
Yeah, but those guys will get eaten for lunch, unless all hell breaks loose, unless some scandal, right? I mean,
it's a very Democrat. I think it's like a +17 Democratic district.
Yeah, it's just like whatever. Here's a theory that Joe and I may not agree on, but it's mine, and he'll weigh in. I think whoever wins this race, especially Regenberg, because he's so caustic, could be a sitting duck next year in the regular election season.
No, I disagree.
I know you do. So let's start the show again. I need an entire half hour here.
I think whoever wins this race will solidify themselves over the next number of months in the 1st Congressional District. It's very hard to take down an incumbent congressperson. And I think whoever wins will start to be able to raise money very quickly, have a good war chest, and try to get support from these other candidates in the regular Democratic establishment.
Well, would you agree with me, though, that this was kind of the junior varsity crowd running for this race?
It's not what was expected when the race started. People looked at Speaker Sakachi as possibly getting it, Helena Folks getting in it. I think if either one of those two got in it, the field would be a lot smaller right now.
And we would consider that more of a varsity game, correct?
I would say yes.
I still would suggest, I'll bet you a beer, that come November of next year, there could be a very viable varsity player that comes in and takes on the incumbent. Would you at least agree with me that this incumbency would be weaker than a traditional incumbency?
Yes, at the beginning, but again, it depends on what they do for the next 6 or 8 months in Congress and what they do back here at home to solidify their base of support they win on Tuesday.
You know, Regenberg likes to break plates, you know,
right.
So we'll see what happens with this. I'll ask the question that I know I can't get an answer to. Who wins this race?
I'm really not sure at this point. I think there's about 4 candidates who have a good chance to win the race. As I said, the perception is Aaron Regenberg is in front. If he can hold on to that 25%, he's going to be in a strong position on Tuesday.
But I don't think you or I are going to be surprised about being surprised.
No, not at all. I think there's a number of candidates who will win this race. And again, a lot's going to depend on where the vote's coming from. People talk about Providence, the east side. The thing is, you've got a lot of candidates from Providence running, so you may not get one candidate who really dominates on the east side.
We didn't talk about early voting 5 seconds here. It's no big deal.
I think there's like 7,000 or 8,000 people voted early and by mail so far.
On par.
On par.
All right.
Maybe a little lower.
Thanks for your insight, Joe. Appreciate it. We'll catch you after the election. Final word when we come back. Okay, so remember, the vote is Tuesday. If you're unaffiliated or Democratic, you can vote in this 12-person race. If you're Republican, you stay Republican. If you're Democrat, you stay Democrat. And if you don't care, I understand, but that's not acceptable.